Local storage. In the README, I described it as window.local storage. We learned that the window object is the global object, so you can just access that as local storage, or you can say window.local storage, same thing. To set an item in local storage, local storage.set item. First argument, the name of the item. The second argument, the value. So local storage is this place for storing things in the browser, not on a server, but local to your machine, so that you can get to it later, so that when you refresh the page, you can still get to that. Now, the good news is another site could not get to the stuff you stored in local storage on your site. They are scoped by the domain, so other websites won't be able to steal that data. No, they can't access your. They all get their own version of local storage, basically. When they say local storage, they get a different object back that doesn't have that stuff in it. So it looks an awful lot like a JavaScript object. Strictly speaking, it's not quite the same thing because the values have to be strings. It can't be absolutely anything. So if you have something other than a string that you want to store there, you're going to have to convert it into a string, and we'll look at how to do that. But that's all you have to do to store something. To get it back, get item, and then just the name of that item. So first name here is essentially a key. And this would get back the value. If you want to remove that key from local storage, remove item. Piece of cake. If you want to completely clear local storage, local storage.clear. And again, that's still scoped to the particular site. You're not going to clear local storage across the entire browser by doing that. If you do need to save some sort of non-string data, the most common way to do that doesn't work in absolutely every situation, but most of the time, JSON.stringify will do it. Now, what the heck is JSON? We'll talk about that. So once you've turned this thing into a string, once you read it back out of local storage and you need to do something with it again in JavaScript, you're going to have to turn it back into whatever it was originally. So for that, we have JSON.parse. It's the opposite of stringify. Very quick overview of local storage. Let's play around with it for just a minute. I have a console open already, so I can do something. First of all, let's just see that it really is a thing. Yes, it really is a thing. It's a storage object. It's already got some stuff in it because this isn't the only thing I've been running. You can have a look at local storage easily inside the developer tools by looking under application. This application tab has all kinds of stuff, including local storage. So you can sort of browse it. File://, that's basically the website we're looking at because we're just running this from our file system. And there's something in there that says roster, it has no value. I'm going to go ahead and just completely get rid of that thing, because that's not related to what we're about to do. So let's see. Local storage .set item. Let's just try using the examples we said. First name. That's the key. Second name is the value. Set undefined. Now, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I assume it's harmless. You can find out. Local storage .get item. First name. Okay, it worked. The return value is just undefined. Cool. So if I go to this application tab, look at local storage file, I should see key, first name, value, Davy. Let's make an object. Const student equals some object, first name, colon, Davy, last name, colon, Struce. Make sure that really did save. Yep, that's good. Let's try putting that in local storage. Local storage dot set item. We'll call it student. The strings are always keys. I mean, the keys are always strings. And the value will be student. Now let's look at what that is. Didn't get an error. Student is the value object. So since it was an object, not a string, it turns it into a string. And that's how it turns an object into a string. Object. Not terribly useful. So we need to turn this into a string that's actually readable and usable, parsable. So we said JSON.stringify student. Let's see what that gets us. I'll make a variable for that. Const. I'll make let so I don't have to, so I can reuse this name. Student string. JSON stringify student. Now what is student string? It looks a lot like an object literal. In fact, if I just take what's in here, paste that value in there, that is object literal syntax. So JSON, JSON, stands for JavaScript Object Notation. It is not exactly the same thing as the actual object notation in JavaScript, because as we've learned, not absolutely every valid JavaScript object can be turned into that automatically. But it's basically a stringified version of JavaScript objects. But it's a data format, sort of an alternative to XML. It's a lot more readable than XML. There's not tag soup everywhere. You don't have to see the name of each field once at the beginning and end of the field. You just see it, you don't see it twice, once at the beginning and end of a field like you would with XML tags. There are a bunch of angle brackets everywhere. But not every syntax for creating objects in JavaScript is valid JSON. You'll notice the keys are all double quoted, as are the values. It must be that way in JSON. The quotes aren't optional, and they must be double quotes. But that's what JSON looks like. So since we have this thing that is a string, even though it's a string containing object notation, we should be able to set that in local storage. So let's try. Local storage dot set item student string, I think we called it. Yeah, now we got it. But if I read that out, student from storage, local storage dot get item student. Let's look at student from storage. You'll see it's a string. It is not the object, so I can't say student from storage dot first name. because it's not really that object. It's just a string containing the JSON, right? So we have to run json.parse student from storage if we actually want the object back. Now let's look at actual student obj. Hey, now it's a real object. I can say actual student obj dot first name. Notice that to get what I typed on the line above, I was able to just hit the up arrow to get to the previously typed commands, just like you can in the actual terminal. Very handy. So kind of make a little sense. Very quick overview of local storage. Pretty easy to work with.